We are past the 4th of July, and that marks the unofficial start of fantasy football season. So I figured this is a good time to talk about 5 mistakes you need to avoid while playing Dynasty. The first one, and this is probably one of the bigger ones I think I see people talk about it on Twitter all the time as well, is you do not have roster needs in the middle of the summer. And by that, I mean, if you're looking at your roster and saying, man, I really need to get an RB2, and it's the second week of July. That's not true. You do not have a roster need right now because there's no games. You're not actually setting an active lineup. You're not concerned about what's going to happen this Sunday in terms of fantasy. What you should be doing is just going out and trading for players that are talented, that are going to probably gain value from now until the start of the actual NFL season. And the big one I always see is, right, people say, well, I need an RB2, right? I need a second running back on my roster, a third running back for depth. Those are usually like the biggest concerns people run into. If that's the case, I'm not trading for running backs in July as a contender most often, right? If it's for a talent thing, like I have 5 running backs and I want to add Travis Etienne, sure, go ahead. But if I'm doing it specifically just to fill a need, I'm not going to do that. And the reason is running backs get hurt at such an insane clip that buying a guy in July, it's not even a guarantee he, successfully fills that gap in your roster come the start of the season. Players go down in training camp, right? We had J.K. Dobbins, we had Cam Akers the last 2 years, or 2 years ago now, kind of ruin people's lineups in the middle of the summer. So I'm not adding running backs, right, if it's a vital piece of my roster and it's not just a talent play. So I'm not going to go add James Conner right now because he could be an RB2, because James Conner could get hurt the first week of the preseason, and great, now I have to go give up more assets to get another running back to fill the same gap I thought I had filled. Do not worry about your roster in July. You're not setting lineups. It really ultimately doesn't matter whether you have an RB2 or not at this point in the season. Number 2, I always like to bring this up this time of the year because we get more than ever, and that is just stop overreacting to every single piece of news we get. We know how this works. Like, this time of year is peak coach speak. It is peak beat reporter hype season. If you react to every single piece of news you see and read every headline, you're going to go insane. You're ultimately going to end up kind of running in circles, chasing value that may never actually materialize, right? Like Deneric Prince, he is sitting out there right now on the Chiefs, undrafted free agent running back. He's gotten hype from minicamp and all these other things, right? He's getting pressed as a great pass catcher. He could push Jerick McKinnon. Okay, well, if he's sitting on waivers, sure. Go and add Deneric Prince. I think that's fine to do. I've done that in leagues. But what I'm not going to do is go out and give up a 3rd-round pick, another player and a pick to get Deneric Prince because there's some hype surrounding him. Those are the types of moves that often don't really pan out at all, right? If you're trading draft picks, players of value, because you read a hype piece on an undrafted free agent or a 6th-round rookie, you're not making smart moves. You're not making informed moves, right? We have done so much research for you guys, and you've also done your own, right, from January to now. Don't go change everything because there's a new piece of hype floating out over here, and that's shifting how you view every single player on your roster. Stand strong. Do not get swayed by every piece of news. Number 3, I'm just going to kind of throw this at you, and it's just do not be afraid to rebuild in Dynasty. It's significantly harder to rebuild this time of year, right, July, August, early September, right before the season starts, than it is in March and April when you have rookies and all these other things that are floating out there. This time of year, a lot of people end up abandoning their rebuild strategies because, well, the season's here. I don't want to waste my season. I want to, actually be able to care about my lineup every week. I want to try to win money, those types of things. Stick with a plan, right? If you've spent your entire offseason rebuilding, do not shift away from that mindset. Stick to what you are doing. And I get that it sucks because everybody else gets to care about their lineup and you're looking to 2024. But if you're not a true contender, if you're not a legit team that can go out and win a title, you need to rebuild. And I get it, like, it may not be fun, but long term, a year from now, 2 years from now, you could be a true contender. That is how you get to that point. A lot of people stick with it. They stick on a strategy and they follow that through for multiple seasons and then get to the point where they have a chance to win 1, 2, 3 titles in a row because they've just built a juggernaut and they committed to a full rebuild instead of being stuck in the middle or bouncing back and forth, not being really sure what they want to do with that specific roster. Now, I just mentioned it, like losing value in a trade, and I think it's still important to note it's okay to not win every single trade in terms of trade value. This goes for whether you're competing or you're rebuilding, right? You need to not get so hung up on, right, the nuts and bolts of every single deal, right? Like if you're using the DLF trade calculator as a guideline, which I think is a great idea, but you're not willing to make a trade because you're losing, 50 points in terms of trade value, you're overthinking things, right? Like when we really get down to it, caring about specific value of every single piece in a deal is often how you just kind of get trade paralysis. You don't actually get anything done at that point. Things shift so much year to year. Value is different for each team depending on whether they're rebuilding, stuck in the middle, or actually contending. So I think getting hung up on individualized value is just, you're going to drive yourself insane. Make sure it's fair to you, or you think you're getting a good deal, but do not be concerned about trying to quote unquote win every single trade you send out. Now, sticking with the theme of trading and trading properly, make sure you're still valuing rookie picks appropriately, right? Your first rounders this year versus 2025 versus 2026, they have different sets of value. Same with seconds and thirds. Typically, and this is my personal strategy, is I'm not giving up a first round pick, whether it's 2024, 2025, 2026, unless I am getting a player with multiple years of value. Firsts are typically like the bedrock of your roster, right? That is your best chance to get a star player cheap. So I am keeping my first under lock unless I'm getting long-term assets. It doesn't matter if it's a 2026 first or not. I'm not giving up, core pieces of a roster or core pieces of a rebuild unless I'm getting a player that is going to give me prolonged value. Like James Conner, he's one, if you've watched us, I talk about trading for James Conner all the damn time, right? If I want depth at running back, or if I think, I want a high value veteran at the position, that's what James Conner is to me. But I'm not giving up a first round pick for James Conner because think about it. James Conner is a 1-year rental. As much as I love the dude, his time is coming to an end, sadly. Would I give up a second round pick for James Conner? Absolutely, because seconds, while they do gain value year after year, come the actual, rookie draft, post-NFL draft, second-round picks typically lose a little bit of value because it becomes more realistic about who's actually available, right? Your late seconds drop in value drastically from your early seconds, right? So if I'm making win-now trades, I'm fine to give up seconds and thirds for 1-year rentals because often that is a better bet than just your rookie dart throw, that late in your rookie drafts. So keep that in mind when you're trying to gauge how much the 2024, 2025 second actually worth and what type of player should I target with those picks. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Again, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe. If you have questions, you have comments, you have other tips and tricks you want to drop for people, put it down in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.